Alright, so first off, even lower effort than usual. I told myself that I wasn't going to go more than a week without uploading on this channel, and what do you know, the file from my video complaining about Doc Rivers got corrupted. I'm sure you can imagine how it felt watching days of work basically reset. I'll still try to get it redone throughout the week because, gosh, I'm sick of this man. Last week, Jimmy Butler tore his ACL against the Miami Heat. Now, apart from Pat Riley, pretty much everyone felt bad for the Warriors, staff, and especially Jimmy himself. Now, he's already said he's going to come back, and I applaud him for the grind, but a 36 turning 37-year-old small forward suffering a substantial knee injury is not a good look. Maybe Jimmy can do what he's done literally his entire life and prove everybody wrong and come back and be a productive player, but until I see that, I'm assuming Jimmy's days is anything above a role player are done. So that brings up the big question of what's Jimmy's legacy? Well, let's look at his career. As a 13-year-old, Jimmy was kicked out of his house by his mother and was homeless, simply because she didn't like the look of him. And so began this young man's life of defying the odds due to a mixture of luck, talent, and sheer willpower. He played well in high school, but not enough to be recruited, so he attended a community college where he proved himself, got some national interest, and got a scholarship to Marquette, where he improved year after year. In 2011, he was picked 30th overall by the Bulls. Now, looking back, 2011 had quite a few good players, like Kyrie, Clay, and Kawhi, and in retrospect, there are some players that obviously shouldn't have gone above Jimmy. Like,
Tobias Harris over me?
But back to the past. Jimmy cracked the rotation in his second season and would improve year over year, being one of the breakout players of the 2014-15 season, winning the Most Improved Player award and being selected to his first All-Star team. He bet on himself, initially turning down a 4-year, $40 million contract offer and ending up playing himself into a 5-year, $90 million max contract. But cracks started to form in this Bulls tenure. First, it was conflict with Joakim Noah and Derrick Rose. Next, it was conflicts with head coach Fred Hoiberg. And after that, it was conflicts with Rajon Rondo. Jimmy was showing off who he was with different interpretations. Either he was a fiery competitor with an undying will to win that is calling out players and coaches and trying to lend accountability, or he's a locker room cancer and detriment to the team. I think it's somewhere in the middle. And after a couple years of doing this, Jimmy got traded to the Timberwolves and we can finally turn a new leaf. What do you mean he's calling out the locker room again? He's only been here 5 minutes. So apparently Karl Anthony Towns is too soft, and I can kind of see it. Oh, and Andrew Wiggins and the GM, and we can probably jot down all of the above. Around this time is where the whole locker room cancer narrative got started. And after torching the Wolves starters with third stringers, which, side note, is one of the funniest stories in NBA history, he was gone. A lot of people, though, didn't find this funny. I think he's a guy that thinks he's better than he truly is, and has an attitude about it. I have a hard time seeing him want to come to Philly, even if the front office really wants him anyway. He'd be a third wheel, hopefully fourth, and I don't think his ego could take it. So off to Philly, and oh my gosh, he's doing it again. But actually, wait. We've got Jimmy Butler, who's coming off of back-to-back All-NBA selections, Joel Embiid, who's just been selected to his second straight All-NBA selection, and Ben Simmons before he was garbage, being selected to the 2019 All-Star team. We also got some pretty quality players around us. We can actually win this thing. Let's go get that championship.
Defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger?
And after less than a season with his third team, he's on to his fourth team. Maybe he could have stayed, but as everyone knows, Philly decided.
Tobias Harris over me?
But Miami was different. The Heat culture was perfect for Jimmy. It embodied grit, and that's exactly what Jimmy was. He's never been a great three-point shooter, a good mid-range one, but a guy that prefers to relentlessly attack the defense inside and draw constant contact while being a great defender on the other end of the court. And in the bubble, Jimmy took another step. They embarrassed the number 1 seeded Milwaukee Bucks, beat Boston, and faced LA in the finals. They ended up losing, but not before Jimmy stamped his name in NBA history with a Herculean effort, leading his team in every statistical category and dropping a 35-point triple-double to extend the series to 6. The year after, Miami struggled in large part due to their shortened offseason, and Milwaukee got their revenge. And the year after, oh boy, some more conflicts with the team. But actually, Miami is good this year, and after stopping by for some good old-fashioned Philly smacking, Miami had a real chance to head back to the finals. After a series where Jimmy himself had some great and not so great games, it was tied at 3-3. Winner goes back to the finals. And down to an NBA Finals on the line, he took a shot at immortality.
Tie for the lead. Loose.
In the post-game presser, Jimmy showed off that unwavering confidence yet again. But come 2023, Miami really didn't look like they were going to do much, barely scraping by the play-in to face the number 1 seeded Milwaukee Bucks, the third time in 4 years. And then Jimmy decided to turn into a mix of prime Michael Jordan and Stephen Curry, dropped the 4th most points in a playoff game ever, hit this ridiculous shot, and sent Milwaukee packing in just 5 games for one of the most embarrassing playoff exits in NBA history. And it all ended because Grayson Allen did this stupid Euro step that ran out the clock when he had an open mid-range. And Bud, please, for goodness sake, learn to call a freaking timeout. As you can probably guess, I'm a Bucks fan, and this series lives in my nightmares. Unfortunately, Jimmy got hurt in the next playoff series, which definitely affected him the rest of the playoffs. But they still beat the Knicks, and what do you know, here we go again. Except, despite being on the verge of becoming just the second 8th seed to ever make the finals, all the pressure is on Miami to win because they blow a 3-0 lead. And they did win, so good job. So who are we facing in the finals? Surely not a top 5 player of all time in the midst of an all-time playoff run. That would be crazy. Another defeat. After a failed attempt to acquire Dame, suck it, Miami, Jimmy showed up in character to media day as Miami continued to be mid all season long. But this time, things were different as Jimmy got hurt in the play-in and Boston got its revenge against a hobbled Heat team. Jimmy did some trolling and then Pat Riley woke up from his 8-month-long nap to complain about Jimmy, and after a failure to reach a contract extension, things turned bad really quick. Strom's just said that the Heat are open to trading Jimmy, to which Pat Riley, who I'm pretty sure is half senile at this point, said, "Nuh-uh, don't know nothing about it." Actually, Pat, you do know something about it because Jimmy just demanded it to your face. And after a month and a half of tiring back and forth, Jimmy was out of Miami and headed to Golden State, where his tenure started off great, then injuries happened that contributed to the Warriors' playoff exit, then they struggled to start the year, and now they get hot, and then, well, Jimmy's gone. Now, I just want to do a quick little rant about Pat Riley. Maybe it's just my generation being unable to respect authority or something, but I always found the whole "don't mess with the Godfather" narrative to be a ridiculous and outdated way of thinking to defend Pat's flat-out incompetence and stubbornness to adapt. I believe you can and probably should criticize Jimmy for how everywhere else ended, but Miami is different. Pat Riley's actions led to LeBron leaving, they helped lead to Wade leaving, and last year, they helped lead to Jimmy leaving. That's your 3 greatest players of all time gone because you are too stubborn to adapt to the modern NBA landscape and insist on micromanagement. If Eric Spoelstra wasn't the coach of this team, not that he's without fault either, then Miami would have struggled to have made the playoffs even with Jimmy. Back to Jimmy though, his career has been one of the most unique ones to watch develop. He's a polarizing figure. Some people loved his approach to the game while others hated it. But whatever stance you take on it, I think you can acknowledge that it came from a legitimate desire to win and compete. He didn't just act the way he did for attention or for a desire or just to be a problem. He actually cared about it and held the belief that his opinion was right. I mean, this man literally thought he could play wide receiver in the NFL. His reaction in that video isn't one of a guy who's just saying stuff to puff himself up. No, he genuinely believes what he's saying. That unwavering confidence and belief in himself absolutely caused friction with teammates, coaches, and GMs. That's why for so long he had a reputation as a locker room nightmare. But at the same time, that belief is the exact reason why he's here today. Of course, I don't know him personally, nor has he written an autobiography about himself. Though Jimmy, people would definitely pay money for that. But he was a kid that was kicked to the door, had to go through community college just to climb up the totem pole at Marquette, had to grind his way up from the last pick in the 2011 first round to role player, to key starter, to all-star, to superstar. And what better way to show that confidence in yourself by rejecting contracts on numerous occasions just to get another, more favorable one later down the road? His finals runs are the literal epitome of grind runs. An 8th seed in the NBA Finals. That's ridiculous. The last time that happened was 1999 when the season was just 50 games, and the single most iconic image of Jimmy on the basketball court, that is, because seriously, this man might be only behind LeBron in terms of memeable moments, is him hunched over on the baseline, exhausted as he begins to fill his team with hope that even though they're down 3-1 and the odds seem impossible, they can win because they have the roster to do so. If anyone's ever says Jimmy Butler isn't a leader, they're just flat out wrong. Yes, he isn't the type of guy to give you an inspiring speech or hype you up out of a timeout. He isn't going to mentor the young players to greatness or grab the clipboard in a timeout. But he plays how he talks. He will do what is needed, and you can rely on him that when his team needs him and is bought into the same goal that he has, he will play his heart out. When your best player leaves it all on the court for the sole purpose of willing your team to victory, that is inspiring and unquestionably leading by example. And that is what Jimmy Butler's legacy is. Grit. Honestly, he might just be the grittiest and grindiest player there ever has been. Maybe guys have grinded out more physically, but mentally, seeing the odds that have onlookers writing you off before you even began, only to charge head on with unwavering belief in yourself, That is something that defines Jimmy Butler's entire career. And honestly, that's why I really wasn't surprised when he made it clear that he was going to return. 36, soon to be 37, the worst ligament injury one can sustain outside of an Achilles tear, and still, that cannot shake him. Whether or not Jimmy is ever the same player, I hope he can retire as a champion. He wears his emotions on his sleeve and has left his heart on the court countless times. Sure, some things in his career have been uncalled for and you can criticize, but the majority of it has been good. This really is the end of Jimmy Butler as we know him. He had a phenomenal Hall of Fame career, and nothing anybody says can take that away from him. Thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like and subscribing, and also checking out this video where I go over the NFL's divisional round matchups. And stick around for later this week where I rant a bit about Doc Rivers because, gosh, I'm sick of this man. Have a great day, everybody.